Today I am making Wizard of Oz inspired She Was Hungry baked apples. When you're done, you'll have your own apple treats to serve to your own family and friends, just like these. Okay, so they don't look exactly like the pictures, but they did taste good. If you don't know, here's the inspiration for the baked apples.
Oh, apples! Oh, look! Ouch!
What do you think you're doing?
Did you say something?
She was hungry.
She was hungry.
Well, how would you like to have someone come along and pick something off of you?
Come along, Dorothy. You don't want any of those apples.
Are you hinting my apples on what they ought to be?
Oh, no. It's just that she doesn't like little green worms.
Oh, you...
Now I promise you the recipe that I have doesn't call for any worms. I am not a professional cook or chef, just someone who enjoys baking and cooking for my own family and friends and enjoy trying new things. I think most people are similar to me. Just make good things as best as you can for your family and friends to enjoy. Take note that these baked apples take a couple of hours to make, so it's not going to be a quick preparation dessert. I'll put the entire recipe in the notes. Start out getting all your ingredients together. You'll have 3 separate parts to prepare. You have the apple prep, the apple filling, and the pastry shell. Starting with the apples, peel and core 6 apples. The apples I used were too big. You can use any kind of apple you prefer. You'll want to prepare your apple marinade first and put your apples into it as you get done peeling and coring them. One note, if you don't have an apple core, go ahead and get one. It just costs a few bucks at Walmart or Target or somewhere like that. It makes it so easy to core those apples in just a couple seconds. So to make this marinade, you'll put a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and mix them all together. Use a medium-sized bowl for this marinade. The one that I used was too big. You mix all these together until they're well mixed and the sugar is dissolved. As you work on the apples to peel and core them, place each one of them into the marinade. Completely coat them with this mixture. You can use a spoon to coat the inside core of the apple also. When done with all 6 apples, you want to set this aside. Next, we'll prepare the apple filling for inside the core of each apple. For this, you'll need a 1/4 cup of melted butter, a 1/2 cup of chopped pecans, and a 1/2 cup of dark brown sugar. And you're going to mix all this together in a small bowl and set it aside also. Now it's time to make our pastry for our over apple wrap. For this, you'll need 2½ cups of flour, plus some additional flour for the rolling and dusting, 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay, so now we're going to mix the 3 dry ingredients together: the flour, powdered sugar, and salt. 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, very cold. 1/2 cup of solid vegetable shortening, or crisco, very cold also. For both of those, I went ahead and just put them in the freezer for a few minutes before I needed to use them. And we'll also need 1/3 cup of ice water. Take the butter and shortening and cut it in small pieces. Make those cut pieces about pea-sized, and I found using my hands to mix it all together was the easiest way to do it rather than using utensils. But you can use utensils if you want. Add water a little bit at a time to make the pastry dough. If you need to use more cold water than is called for, don't be afraid to use it to get the dough just right. Like I said, I used my hands during this mixing process. Line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper. Okay, once your dough is ready, you want to cut your dough into 6 pieces. One at a time, roll them out large enough to cover an apple. Take an apple, fill the core with our mixture, and place it in the middle of your pastry dough. Maybe about 2 tablespoons, depending on the size of your apple. Bring up the sides of the pastry and pinch it all together at the top. Cut off any of the extra dough. Then set each one on the parchment paper baking tray. Pinch side down Once all 6 are done, set the tray aside and preheat your oven at this time to 375 degrees. With the extra dough, we're going to make our leaves for the apples. You can use a cookie cutter or you can cut your own leaf shapes. As you make the leaves, put them on the second parchment paper-lined baking sheet and set that aside also. Now for the next part, you'll need a small container for milk and a pastry brush. You'll need about 1/3 of a cup of milk, so get a container that'll hold that much. And you'll need to get some red and green sanding sugar. Now, if you're like me, you never heard of sanding sugar before, but it is an actual thing. You can get it in the baking section of the grocery store, Walmart, Target, wherever you shop. If you can't get specifically red and green colored, you can get the clear and then just put some in a cup and put some red food coloring in or green food coloring in. You're going to brush your apples with the milk and then roll the apple in the sanding sugar so that it's completely covered in the red sanding sugar. With the leaves, you're going to do the same thing. Brush the leaves and then sprinkle the green sanding sugar over the leaves. After you get each one of these trays done, put them in the refrigerator. You're going to leave them in the refrigerator about 15 minutes before you put them in the oven to bake. You're going to bake the green leaves first. You're going to bake them for 7 to 10 minutes or until they're golden brown at the edges and crisp. Take them out and set them aside to cool. You're going to remove the apples from the refrigerator and bake them then for 25 to 30 minutes or until the caramel begins to bubble and the pastry is crisp. Remove them from the oven at that time and then dip the leaves that you have set aside that you already baked, dip them in the hot caramel and attach 2 on each one of the apples. Allow them then to cool for about 20 minutes before you serve them, if you're able to serve them right away, which is the best thing to do. If you need to serve them later, after they've cooled, I would warm them up before you serve them. They taste better that way. But your family or whoever you're making these for will just love them. They're great. They really do taste good, and it's worth the time and effort to put into this. If they don't look perfect, like mine, that's fine. They still taste the same. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. We'll see you next time.